of course.
It's episode 334 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture. This is the last 2024 episode, and I am your host, Brian Barnett.
Rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated. Kris Cornelisse.
I'm Lucas White. I feel like I've just been in like a time anomaly for the past, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I don't know if it's just holiday season or like I had to miss the most recent or one of the most recent shows we did because of illness. So
yeah.
Then pretty much as soon as that hit, it was the week before Christmas, and then Christmas happened and getting all that. And I just kind of, I don't know, I blinked and 2 weeks had gone. It's like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah, last episode you were on was December 5th.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a minute ago. Yeah.
Shock News shut down on the 20th. And I don't really have anything else going on, so I've just kind of been existing since then.
Yeah, I've been, and we'll talk more about this, but I've just been kind of chilling on the couch playing Steam Deck and watching TV with my wife for the past while. But I did want to point out my new little visitor. I don't know if you guys can see him from there, but
oh, I see it.
You see him?
Almost blended in. Yes.
Is that a Vulcan?
Is it a Vulcan? Yes,
you
very
made him
good.
Drop it in shock.
Yes. Well, his legs are not like ideal for this, but yes, this is a famous Vulcan, Luke Skywalker. My sister-in-law got me a Luke Skywalker action figure to kind of celebrate the Star Wars Renaissance that we've been going through over here in the Barnett house. So this is Luke Skywalker from the third Star Trek movie. It's called Revenge of the Vulcans. Pretty sure.
That's it.
The Romulan strike.
Yeah, Romulans.
It's true. It's true. And I will say, it is. I am going full on out here. It's dorky, but I also love it. This is my wife's present to me.
What has he got?
Oh, no.
He's preparing something for us. Oh, no.
Oh, sick.
That is awesome.
Oh, I didn't hear it go.
Well, let's see if I can get it to make the sound for you.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Can you hear that at all?
Oh, I heard a little bit.
Only your noise canceling is too good, so you have to be speaking.
And activate.
Yeah.
You get that one?
It's
unfortunate.
Anyway,
look, it's probably going to be there, and I will try and keep it in the editing if it's there on your track.
I want to see if it shows up on here. Maybe it's just Discord.
It's probably just Discord.
Oh yeah, it definitely shows up.
I will make excellent use of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, here you go. I'll give you a nice clean one.
I'm sure that will sound fantastic, but I can't hear it.
Oh, Mumjum in the chat says the lightsaber noise is loud and clear.
Oh, that must come through on Twitch then. It's just Discord.
So the bummer is that when I was going, I was like, oh man, you know what color I want? Because we built this. I built this at Disney World.
Yeah, you can do that.
Nice.
So and my daughter built a droid, and she is just in love with it. What did she say?
That's cool.
I think she was, when we were like, we're gonna have to ship him back home because we don't have a room in our suitcases. She hugged him and said, "But he means everything to me." And I was like, my God, I'm dying. But then we got to be excited and wait for the lightsaber to get home and the droid. And now, it's party time.
That's cool.
I'll be running around. It'll be like late at night or something, and they'll be like in the bathroom getting a shower or something, and like the lights in the bedroom will be off, and I'll just be standing out there and turn it on. It's awesome. But
do a Rogue One thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to get an orange one, but they don't do that. Like they don't let you do orange ones.
That's good.
So
I imagine they keep them to the main colors more often than not.
Yeah.
Orange tends to be more of an expanded universe thing, and
I mean, yeah, but I was surprised.
I
at
think
how
it
many
only
they-
really showed up in Thrawn, or not Thrawn, the recent one, Ahsoka, that one.
Yeah,
they
which
just
which
like, "Here's
which
more
is
colors
why
from
yeah, which
online."
is why I was like, well, surely they'll have it. They just did a show where people had these. No. Apparently
Yeah.
this
Sure.
color like means something that's going to be revealed later, which I think is dumb.
Hmm.
I think they shouldn't mean anything. I think it should literally just be a color like it always was.
Yeah.
Like back when the
KOTOR
story
does it
was
better, like most things.
yeah, the Sith had red lightsabers because they were artificially created.
Mhm.
Like which so because red is not a naturally occurring crystal, so they just and
Yeah,
like
it's like you.
why would they go out
you
on a
basically
spirit
bully
quest?
the kyber crystal into submission, and it
Yeah.
turns red.
Yeah, which is
Interesting.
stupid. But yeah, it did make sense because then it was like, well, the Sith wouldn't go out on like a spirit quest to get a crystal. Like they would just if they could just brute force it. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna make
Yeah.
one. Like it's fine. Who cares? But they had green, blue, red, yellow, white, and purple. And I was like, really? But you don't have orange? That's really stupid. So
Yeah,
anyways,
like,
I got a red one.
White is rarer than
Yeah.
any of those.
There's literally
like,
only like one, right? Or two.
yeah, it's Ahsoka's,
Yeah.
both of them, and that's it.
And Mace
far
is
as
the
I
only
know,
purple
they-
one.
Yeah, the only Although it did feature more prominently again in KOTOR. Like KOTOR had all these colors and then some had
Yeah.
different shades of stuff
Yeah.
because it had
Yeah.
orange before it was cool.
And you could buy like
Though I usually went purple because fuck yeah, purple.
Yeah, at the show. I mean, I love purple too. It's just like I like orange and I like green on it. But you could even buy like black. Like you could buy the dark saber like black with a white outline at the shop, but they didn't sell orange. And
Just
I'm like,
no-
this is
they just hate
fucking
orange.
crazy.
They let you have these one-offs,
Yeah.
but they don't let you have the
No
one
orange.
from
And
like
I'm
the
like,
most recent show.
Bro, my like Plo Koon literally had like an orange lightsaber. Like, and then, I was thinking about this. I remember in like the Jedi Power Battles or something, I remembered like Adi Gallia having like a pink lightsaber, but maybe I'm wrong. I remember
Possibly, but a lot of those, like a lot of the alternate lightsaber colors are just like in the games and not considered canon, as far as
Yeah.
I know.
And then I
So-
looked it up and it was like, yeah, Plo Koon had a blue lightsaber. And I'm like, the fuck he did. He had an orange one. You are lying. But anyways,
Oh no.
we've been watching a lot of Star Wars. And my buddy Josh sent me a collector's edition of Jedi Survivor. So I actually have that lightsaber hilt.
Hell
And
yeah.
so I got a blade
you
for
mean-
that one for.
I mean this one, the Jedi
Hey.
Survivor.
Yes. Okay. I have a question. Can you change the colors on that or no?
So, I imagine like in the limited edition, it was all like it came put together. So I
Yes.
got mine at the press event for the game,
Okay.
and they just kind of handed them out. But it was like the hilt and everything was all together and put together.
Yeah. So was mine.
Yeah. So when I got home, we ended up buying the blade just like from some guy on Mercari because we couldn't. They were like all sold out everywhere on like Disney and stuff. So I just put the blade in, then it was blue, and kind of didn't think about it more than that.
Yeah.
but-
So can I see the bottom of yours? Like, is it busted or is it whole? Okay. See, so there's a so you know where the button slide is, like to turn it on.
yeah,
On the
this-
one on the
thing was-
opposite side, there's like a button that you can depress, like at the top, and you should see that there's like a hole like underneath it that can depress. If you hold that for like 6 seconds, it should change colors, and it can change to all 6 of those colors. Because the person who worked in the shop in Disney Springs showed me that on the model they had in, but my button doesn't move. It feels like it's a solid piece of metal, and I can't figure out.
like
because if
this circle gimmick right here, or
No. It's literally the same thing as the one that you slide up to turn it on.
so
yeah.
this guy.
So then on the other side, then the top square section should push in. But
No, it's just one piece.
yeah, so mine's one piece too. But when I went to the shop in Disney Spring, that little square
Interesting.
pushes in and you hold it for 6 seconds and it changes the color and it rotates between all 6 colors, which I thought was sick. And so I was excited about that when the lady
Oh,
told me about
man.
it. And she was like, okay, you have the Jedi Survivor version, right? And I'm like, yes. She's like, good, because like the first one is only blue, but the bottom is like broken, like it is in the first game. So I was excited, but I can't figure out how to get it to work. So the one
Yeah,
that they
that's messed
sell
up.
online that
Mhm.
looks just like the one that you and I have changes colors to all 6 of them. And I'm really
wild.
annoyed that mine doesn't.
Man,
You guys got the
shortchanged.
cheapy ones because you are, getting the media version, I guess.
Yeah.
I just
wow.
I just don't understand
Messed
because
up.
everywhere it's like, yeah, this changes colors, but it doesn't. Anyways,
Well, learn
that's
something.
a little personal grievance that I have. That's a
Messed up.
general
Yeah.
grievance that I have.
Gonna send some emails tomorrow.
Yeah.
General grievance.
Yeah, general grievance. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about. Star Wars is great. I wish I had some other Star Wars stuff to talk about other than the fact that I've just been watching the original trilogy demastered, or a despecialized
be.
edition, which is excellent.
Nice.
But yeah, been playing a bunch of games. I finally finished watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. I got to the end. It has a fantastic ending. I did not have Curb Your Enthusiasm ending makes the Seinfeld ending better on my bingo card, but here we are.
Huh.
It's pretty good.
I did not know that either. I never sat through, I never sat through either, honestly. I know of the Seinfeld ending, but I've not sat through it.
Yeah, there's a lot of commentary. A lot of people take the piss out of Larry in the show for the ending of Seinfeld. And then the ending of Curb is kind of like commentary, like meta commentary on the ending of Seinfeld. It's pretty good. And then we also just finished The Good Place, which like destroyed me.
I hear that's a really good show.
It's extremely
I've only
good.
seen little clips of it.
Yeah. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, I think we had only not seen the last season, and so we went back after we haven't watched it in years, and then just like watched the last season, and we're done. So I'm on a good run of ending stuff, but it's been nice to be a little couch potato for a while after just blowing and going through Disney World for so long. But
yeah, needed a vacation from your vacation, as the saying goes.
Yes, particularly when it's just you and a 5-year-old for 2 full, like 12 to 14 hour days.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot.
I've been to Disney World once, and it was like almost 25 years ago at this point. I imagine it's changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
I have not been to, the closest thing I've been to any of the Disney ones is Universal Studios when I was at LA. My friend then went from there to Disneyland, but I opted not to. So
Universal's pretty good.
I enjoyed Universal.
I had a lot of fun with that. The wettest I've ever been is on the Jurassic Park ride. Like, just...
I have a
Is that the
photo
one
over
with
there
the
somewhere.
big drop at the end with the
Yes.
T-Rex?
It is, yeah.
I've been
Yes.
on that. Pretty cool.
We
I
went
have a
on
photo of me and my friend over there from years and years ago. Like, we took it and we were just doing stupid poses. So it was great.
We went on that. Me and my family went on that the first thing in the morning, and I didn't know that you get wet. And we were there for an entire like 10 to 12 hour day. And by the time we left, I was finally dry enough to sit down in the car to go home. Like I was soaked the entire day. It was literally like I jumped in a pool. I was that wet. It was crazy.
Oh.
So that trip was fun because towards the end of the day, like we spent most of the day there. And then towards the end of it, like the lines and everything were really short. So we're just going to daisy chain basically going between Jurassic Park and the Mummy roller coaster thing, just in like quick succession. So we went on each of them like 4 times right at the end of the last hour and just had a ball. So
That's awesome.
It was good times.
That's good stuff.
I love roller coasters. I'm a
like
big thrill ride enjoyer. So
same. Let's talk about some games.
Roller coasters, the spinny things.
Games.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, when I was at Universal, they had like an arcade. And it was the first time I saw Tekken 3 with motion controls.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was like these 2 little circles that you stood on. And then you did stuff with your body. I vaguely remember this because I was a child. But
So
I watched people play
Shadowbox.
it. Yeah. Oh no, I was just watching. I was just like, what in the world am I witnessing? And someone was like doing weird stuff, and they were playing as ogre and shooting fire, and it was bizarre.
Somebody actually doing all the grapples as king, like a Chad.
Wild.
Just grab your friend in a full Nelson hold. And...
Exactly. Suplex a motherfucker.
Mhm. Wild.
But yeah, games.
That was a
Games
game.
indeed.
That was a game. Tekken good.
All right, I've got a couple of things. I've got Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I finally beat it. And then I've got Metaphor, and I dipped into Arco and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond. Kris,
snap.
what did you have for this week?
If it's all good of you, maybe I'll steal it the first spot just so I can segue after the Star Wars talk.
Okay.
Because I finally got around to finishing Star Wars Outlaws.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go ahead and wrap that one up.
So just give me one moment while I have a drink.
I think where you left us was the sure is an Ubisoft game, but I've heard a lot about the last parts.
Yeah, and that was definitely what I had heard. And I can confirm that I was dead on. Everything that everyone said about that was really true. That game gets really good right at the end. It genuinely gets really good right at the end. I'm like, what? Why? So here's the conceit, right? Pretty much the whole thing, you're building up towards a heist. And that's awesome. We love heists. But you have to get your team together and get all the specialists and such. And then it immediately goes, okay, so we need different roles. You need like your heavy, your bomb maker, your droid expert. It's like, cool, they're on all these different planets. You can choose which order, but there is a set order. And then you go off and do all those. And those are fine. The main quests are usually, better than the side quests. Side content is pretty meh across the board. Very Ubisoft, as I said. And like the way the upgrades and such work is that not a lot of them are worth doing that much. There's one subset of quests that are actually pretty good, because rather than having like a universal skill tree where you get points or whatever and just fill it with XP, you instead meet experts, and these experts will give you skills. You do a little quest and everything to find and meet them. And then from that point, they open up a bunch of challenges linked to whatever skill you've got there. So for example, you'll meet a gunslinger on Tatooine. And so once you do their quest or whatever, you unlock them as an expert, and that unlocks a bunch of little challenges you can complete, which all basically increase your slow down time, kill shit stuff, and like increase how many targets you do, how much it kills. And it's like, yeah, that's a neat little system. Just you have to go out in the world, meet these people, do quests, get to know them, and then you pick up the skills from them, rather than just having a flat skill tree. And I'm like, that's a good system. I dig that. But everything else is just a lot of filler, a lot of generic stuff. Again, I didn't like the ship combat at all. That wasn't any good. But most of the main quests are pretty solid, but the issue is because you can do them non-linearly, you can't count on any of the characters being there. So it's like you get them, you have that chat, and then they're almost silent and don't interact or weigh in on anything until the end when it knows you have them all. So, well, it's just like, it would have been better as a linear game, because then the characters would actually mean more, because these are pretty good characters. Like, I like the process of learning about them, getting them out, because you always have to go through a situation to get them out and like finish their obligations so they can come with you on this heist. And it's a good process, and I like the characters generally, but it's just, it takes a while before the full squad gets assembled. But then there's a point right before, so one of the only character you have consistently for most of the game, aside from, Kay and Nyx, is ND5, the sexy droid, aka the ex-commando droid in the trench coat. And he is the best character in the game. I love him. He is great.
Big Garrus energy.
Big Garrus energy, 100%. But he's also it's just really interesting to get both the droid's perspective on it and how he thinks about things in his very, droid-like way, because he's been around enough to know to survive the Clone Wars and all the way up to right before Return of the Jedi. And it's like, he's been around, and there's not many of them left, and there's one point where he gets damaged, and you have to go and find an old factory to find the parts to fix him up, and during that part, he's starting to malfunction a lot and kind of relive parts of the old stuff like revert in programming. And
having like flashbacks while they're trying.
Basically, yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah, because
God.
isn't he
It
like a
just-
battle droid or something?
Yeah, he's a commando droid. Like mostly you don't really see them in any of the actual live action movies. They feature prominently in like the Clone Wars show, but they're like by far the best droids. They can actually like impersonate people, like put on like clone trooper armor at one point to kind of get past things and shit like that. And then they're really agile and really fucking strong. They're awesome. But yeah, so he's one of them, and that is like easily the best quest because at that point, like Kay is actually invested in him and really wants to make sure he's going to be repaired and okay. And it's surprisingly heartfelt for, you know, a droid in Star Wars is generally not something you see given as much attention as anything more than, you know, a bit part or comic relief more often than not. So it was really cool. But then shortly after that, you sort that out, and then you've basically got your squad assembled. And then it just jumped right to here's the point of no return. I'm like, that feels a bit sooner than I expected, but all right. And then you got a few hours of segment of doing the heist and going through the heist, the process, and then naturally all the inevitable betrayals and information that comes out and getting vengeance and comeuppance and all the resolution. And that whole last section fucking rules. Despite everything about the game being kind of mid, like in terms of gameplay and such, it's designed in a way that actually makes it pretty engaging. You can choose between, you know, go loud or go quiet. It varies up your mechanics and such in a really good way and ends on a pretty satisfying ship battle. And I'm like, great. This is actually really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it by the end. But it takes like 2/3 of the game to get there. So it's one of those cases. This probably should have been linear. This probably didn't need all the Ubisoft open world filler in general. But at the same time, when I'm there invested in like exploring these worlds and like checking them all out, it is like probably the most believable and real, and I feel boots on the ground in the Star Wars setting than I have in like forever. Even the MMOs don't really scratch that itch. Well, SWTOR doesn't. It's very gamey compared, but yeah. So it was really good towards the end, but I still don't know if I can recommend it because it's very mid up till that point. And you might like it, you might not, but yeah, it's an interesting experience, that's for sure. So I ended up liking it more than I expected, but yeah, you got to work for it.
Probably a few tens of hours up until that point, I imagine.
I hit the point of no return like 30 hours in, and I wasn't thorough. I wasn't doing a lot of the side quests because I figured pretty quickly it's like, I don't need these. I got all the experts unlocked. It's like, I don't need the rest. I don't need to do the filler. I don't even need to unlock all these skills because that requires doing a lot of the side filler as such in some areas. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like 30 hours and I hit the point of no return. I'm like, that's sooner than I expected, actually. And then my total play time was 34.3 hours. Yeah, so not super long in the grand scheme of things. And you could stretch that out more if you were more of a completionist or took your time with it. But yeah.
Or having a good time. Or a better time, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 25 hours of mid occasional slog to get to like 5 to 8 hours of quality. So,
That's a tough trade-off.
it's a tough trade. I don't like I absolutely abhor the defensive, you know, I'll just stick with it for 10, 20, 30, 40 hours or whatever, and it gets really good. It's like, no, that's when the Stockholm syndrome sets in.
Yeah.
More often than not.
You're not asking me to stick through a rough beginning there. You're asking me to
stick through a rough game for a good ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've played very good games that are much shorter than that and don't overstay their welcome and get to their point really quick.
Yeah.
And I can see like Star Wars enthusiasts being the ones willing to like take that chance.
And that's me. That's why I took the chance.
So
that makes sense.
I'm curious compared to like Fallen Order, because I haven't played much of Survivor yet. Like I found that there were like one or two planets that kind of got some characterization. Does it feel more time and a place than that?
Yeah, I'd say the levels and worlds in Fallen Order feel a lot more gamey. Like, they definitely feel more like this is a laid out section of
Yeah.
a video game level, even if it's in that, aesthetic and such. And it's tough to say because I genuinely enjoyed the gameplay and flow of Fallen Order a lot better. Like, I think that is a much more consistent experience. It is better from start to finish overall, and I really like Fallen Order. I haven't tried Survivor yet, but
Yeah, I would say Survivor, especially from my perspective, is like not a huge Star Wars person. Like that's a really fun game to exist in and run around in and do flips and stuff.
Yeah, I
But it
find the
could have
moment
been,
I find the gameplay to be better in Survivor, at least as far as I've gotten.
yeah. But it could have been anything else, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not. It doesn't feel like being in Star Wars, or it doesn't feel like it. Like if it was something else but the same game, I don't think there would be any like major difference in impact or experience or
yeah,
anything like that.
it
Uh,
leverages
I think it answers your question.
aspects. Yeah, it leverages the story better for the purposes of Star Wars, but everything else about it you could transplant elsewhere. Though,
Okay.
it is a pretty good lightsaber dueling game. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the last game that I really played that was like, oh man, this feels like it really evokes what it's based on is Indiana Jones, which I'm not done with quite yet, but yeah, it is very interesting. Uh, and
I do
that's
need to get around to that. I hear good things.
yeah, I'm almost done with it. And it's quite good. It's very good. It's I mean we're
Machine games do good work generally. So
sheet ahead to the game of the year episode that we're gonna do next month. But each of us are bringing like I think we're bringing a top 10 each of us, and then we're gonna build the platformers game of the year list.
or at
Off
least
of
there are
that.
games where we're bringing games that we're like, we are
Yes,
putting this here and we
yeah,
are fighting you over
yeah,
it.
yeah, and that's Indiana Jones is gonna be on my list.
Cool. Good stuff. But yeah, like, so Star Wars Outlaws, better just to, vibe in the setting. And with a very solid ending. Fallen Order, better gameplay, pretty much across the board. More consistent in terms of story delivery and payoff and everything. I'd say the highs are slightly higher at Star Wars Outlaws, but you got to trudge through a lot of mid to get there. So
Hmm.
I'd still point people towards Fallen Order any day compared to Outlaws, which I'm like, lots of caveats, but overall, enjoyed myself more than I expected.
Is it a game where is it like a good podcast game or a good something like that where it's like do you need to be dialed in during the kind of mid hours, or could you kind of like phone it in and still get the payoff from the good stuff at the end?
I think I suppose it depends how much you want to mainline it. Like a lot of the mainline stuff, there is at least a little bit of dialogue and paying attention that you probably don't want to podcast it. If you're just out, doing busy work and repetitive stuff, yeah, you could probably just, second monitor it. But yeah, I'd say you probably still want to dial it in, but you could probably cut down a lot of time. Like I did still just at least try to interface with the systems and do a little bit of side content enough to figure out, yeah, it's not really that worthwhile or anything like that. But yeah, not a long game. If you do it, get it on a sale. It'll probably be cheaper because I got it on like sale when it first released on Steam, but it was still reasonably expensive. So you give it a year or so, come at it when it's quite on sale, you'd be fine.
All right. Cool.
That's Star Wars Outlaws.
Star Wars.
ND5 is best girl.
All right. Lucas, do you want to take something next, or do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll be brief, because I think we re going over some stuff from last time. So one of my last projects for work ended up being a review of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie. And last time on the podcast, I just talked a little bit about the Sonic X Shadow generations and the DLC that came out. So just to talk about it a little bit, number one, movie theaters are so fucked.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible. I just in like the past year, the vibes are so bad. Like they were bad before, especially like right after COVID.
Yeah.
But I walk into this Regal we have, and the first thing you see is just this giant mesh shelf with just bullshit all over it that they're trying to sell. Like I'm sure you guys have seen like the memes of like the popcorn buckets and stuff for like Dune or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is like every movie has a popcorn bucket,
Oh yeah.
every single one. And it's like you go in and it's like, oh, okay, there's like the Moana one and the Lion King, like they're trying to sell that to kids, and it's like, here's the Nosferatu popcorn bucket. Just like, what are you? Oh my god.
Drink
Uh,
blood out of this chalice.
They're selling pops and keychain. It's like it's the GameStop level of desperation for revenue. And it's very sad. I used to work in a movie theater like a decade ago, and like people actually went to see movies then and just bought popcorn, and that was all that needed to happen. So it's very kind of disconcerting as someone who likes going to movies. So there's that. We did get Sonic cups, so I'm
Naturally.
slightly part of the problem. But also this is really funny. So
Yeah, I dig
yeah.
that.
Like some of the ones you can tell there's no effort put into this whatsoever, and then the other ones are like, okay, they were trying to like make a joke or something. Anyway, so I talked a little bit last time about like Shadow the Hedgehog as like a character, and where he's kind of on this weird point of like being kind of the poster boy of people around our age, maybe a little older in games media, who just relentlessly make fun of Sonic.
Out of the edge, etc.
Yeah. The Edge and just like all the goofy lore and characters. He's kind of front and center for that. And as a result was like kind of absent from games for a long time as they were trying to like kind of scrub that off. Then they kind of went backwards and like, well, maybe if we just kind of like take our time with this stuff a little bit, we can like
Maybe if we made him edgier.
yeah. Like
What if we
took our
embrace
time,
the camp? Sonic
yeah,
Forces.
we embrace it, we spend a little more time on it, and we can kind of pander to the people who like this stuff without being made fun of relentlessly by everyone else. And it seems to be working, at least in the past year or so. Especially like this whole year of Shadow thing just sounds absolutely stupid on paper, but like you can't deny how much like audience excitement has been happening.
People got hyped at the reveal at the end of 2, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh boy.
It's like, oh,
Like I'm
okay,
just like,
people,
oh, here we go. But I know.
people like this character. Holy shit. Yeah, it kind of culminates in this movie. I went to see it, and the Sonic movies, their whole thing has been like, these are so much better than anyone would have expected. And
Yes. Still not
because of
great,
that,
but enjoyable.
yeah, and they've done really well because of that. Kids obviously love it. But for this one, it's like they made a real movie for at least half of it, which I really wasn't expecting. Um,
So it's half 50% real movie by volume.
yeah, because like I mean, Brian, you'll know if you've seen a movie made for children in the past 5 or so years, they kind of are the same. Like they're very formulaic. They all kind of include the same kinds of things, the same kinds of jokes. Everyone has like an obligatory dance sequence. Half of them are just sort of
Probably done by Imagination Animation Studio.
yeah, like they're all, the camera never moves. If there's real people, they're obviously in front of green screens. Like very very conveyor belt, like studios checking things off a list.
Yeah.
Even like the Mario movie, I felt like had a very like conveyor belt vibe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
was better than most, but it was still very, by the numbers.
It was not
yeah,
great.
and the Sonic movies, despite like having fun with them, are still very much have that vibe to me. But for this one, whenever they're doing like, here's the story of Shadow the Hedgehog, it's like all of a sudden it's a real movie. As ridiculous as that sounds to say.
Let me
out
tell you,
loud.
it sounds incredibly ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like there's real camera work, like the shots during things that are happening are like,
Man, can you believe the
there's
cinematography in the Shadow
yeah,
movie? It was so good.
cinematography feels silly to say because
Yeah,
like
because
it's
it's
still,
computers. Yeah.
yeah. Although there's like live action stuff going on, but it's
Yeah,
like
there's actual humans amidst the hedgehog.
yeah, and there's things happening in the shots like visually that are like interesting and not just a camera pointed at like people maneuvering around a, you know, like a green sock or whatever. Um and like there's more like uh there's like more emotional weight to stuff happening, um almost just by virtue of there being like effort put into it. And then like the other half of the movie is like Jim Carrey dancing around and Sonic making silly jokes and pop culture references. And it's like two movies smushed together. And part of that I think speaks to why Shadow is like resonating with people all of a sudden. Um just like he's like the only character in Sonic that has like a story that
That
is
has a
like,
character.
yeah, and it's like between games, it like builds upon what they did in the previous game and does more with it, and everyone else is just kind of there to be a mascot. Um, but then like that original story is just very simple. Like this character experienced major loss and is very sad and doesn't know how to deal with it. It's very simple but very like effective, especially for like kids who are like probably not having to confront that kind of stuff and other things for kids. But um so that's that, and like I had a good time with the movie, and especially the stuff with Shadow where it's like, wow, they're like putting weird effort here that's different, and then there's like the silly joke stuff, and it is what it is. um
I
but then
think
I
it
kind of
helps
like,
that Shadow himself is like very obviously not in on the joke, whereas pretty much most of the other characters, especially like Sonic Tails or whatever, they feel like they're in on it to an extent.
yeah,
Shadow is never in on the joke in the games
absolutely,
and anything like that. So I think
yeah.
that helps it.
And like there's only like two or three times where they use Shadow for humor, and it's all hilarious because it's that sort of like you said, he's on the sidelines, he's miserable, he doesn't want to have fun, but then he like makes a joke all of a sudden, and it's like, whoa. um but a thing I didn't really think about until later, uh the director of these movies was on the cinematics team for the Shadow the Hedgehog video game.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, that
Really?
came out
Huh.
in like 2005 or something.
Yeah, it's I have it on the GameCube over there.
Yeah, and that game is like, you know what I said earlier about Shadow kind of being the face of, you know, the Sonic cycle or making fun of those games. That game especially is like the emblem of that feeling of like, oh, we gave the edgy hedgehog a gun, and now here's this huge embellishment on his edgy storyline, but now there's like aliens and all kinds of goofy, just like we we put this character out in this game that everyone likes. Now here's his own game, and we're just gonna jump the shark entirely.
Yeah.
And at least the second we,
Wait, so that was that the game where Shadow got a gun?
Yes.
yeah,
And then they
mhm.
also gave him a gun in this movie.
He does have a gun at one point.
So, okay.
Very funny. He also does an Akira slide on a motorcycle up a building into the air. It's dope. Um,
I love how
but
ubiquitous the Akira side is. I'm just throwing
it's
it out
so
there.
it's
It's
everything.
so cool.
I love that GIF. Have you seen the GIF where it's just like 12 people in rapid succession doing it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
I
just
don't
awesome.
think so.
yeah, super cool.
I'll see
It's
if I
so
can
good.
find it for you while you're talking.
Hell yeah. Anyway, it was like I just had this moment where I started thinking about it from that perspective of like this guy was deeply involved in like the storytelling aspect of this video game that just got made fun of for 20 years. And then somehow not only does he end up directing the movies that are really successful, it's like he gets this second chance to do this,
To kind of nail it a bit better.
yeah, to just try again and maybe try to like, I don't know, like redeem, like the whole thing has been like this build of like, oh, maybe people actually do like Shadow. So then the guy who was, I mean, he wasn't like in charge of the whole game or anything, but he had a pretty big hand in it. Just being in this position to be like, let me try this again and see if I can like nail it this time. or at least
I
like
think it's also better that it isn't this time shackled to the gameplay,
yeah,
because the gameplay in Shadow the Hedgehog is the main reason why that game is reviled. It's not a good game to play at all. You
exactly.
can if you can deal with the dumb edginess of it
Mhm,
and just embrace it and enjoy it for what it's worth,
mhm.
it's okay. And
Yeah,
then the gameplay just bogs it the fuck down. So it's like, all right.
exactly.
So
And
when
it's
you're
not
just
even
doing it
like
as a movie, then yeah.
yeah, it doesn't even really get into the stuff that's in that game. It's mostly like a Sonic Adventure 2 adaptation.
Yeah.
But if you go back to Sonic Adventure 2, that game is just an incoherent mess, and it's
Mm-hmm.
still strange to me that people attach to Shadow from that in the first place. But so it's kind of this like in
Well,
between
that's a
where
gameplay
yeah,
reason, I honestly want to say.
yeah, probably.
Because like no one cares about the other, because the problem with SA2 is that it splits between 3 gameplay modes,
Mhm.
and then across the good and evil team. And then
Yeah,
you have the treasure hunts with Knuckles and Rouge, which
awful.
suck. You have the mech
Terrible.
combat things with Tails and Eggman, which is like, what the fuck? They're okay, but like, what the fuck? And then
Yeah.
you have the actual Sonic, where you're Sonic or Shadow. And those are easily the best part of that game. So that's probably why a lot of people attach themselves to that,
Mhm.
because that's the highlight of that game, which is
Yeah.
overall an okay game.
Yeah. And then just like the little extra bit of pathos from like when you play through the story doesn't even really kick in until the very end after you
Yeah, once you clear both and
yeah.
then actually get the final part.
But it's like they take kind of the vibes from the Shadow game and then kind of everything since, which is just there's been a lot of effort in like the comics and stuff to like really kind of like make a coherent, functional story out of all this stuff. And it just kind of like puts it together into this package that's like legitimately like well made and has this like sense of like, oh, the people who made this like care about it, at least this part. And it's almost like there's a tug of war between like trying to do the passion project of like doing the Shadow thing right, and then like also we need to have Jim Carrey dancing for 20 minutes to justify
Jim
his
Carrey doing
character.
Jim Carrey things, yeah.
But now there's two of him.
Oh no.
Yeah. And that part's just like it makes sense. It's like every movie has a Jim Carrey dance scene because of course that's what he does. Um, but this time because the other stuff is so well made and feels so like intentional, it like detracts, which is
Yeah,
weird.
he was kind of the highlight in the first two,
Yeah.
because he was the only one almost, putting in the effort, and it's Jim Carrey, right?
Mhm.
He really puts in the effort when he does. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's still the same, but this time it's just like I don't actually want this. Like go away. I want more of the other thing. It was really good. But yeah, this is long
get out
and
of the
short of
way.
it.
There was a serious movie going on. I was enjoying that.
Yeah. So it's just cool to like think about it from like a that perspective of being like a creator and just sort of like almost almost by chance because that movie very easily could have been a disaster from the outset with like ugly Sonic and everything.
Mm.
And to have it be enough of a success to like just of course they're making more of them. Uh, so to get to that point where it's like, oh, this is like the thing that I worked on 20 years ago, and now I have another chance of it. It's just like, damn, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, respect.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sonic is such a
It's
weird
so weird.
franchise. Just all of it. Just the development, the games, the stories, the fandom, especially the fandom. Like
Hmm.
it
All
is
over the
such
place.
a it is such a weird thing to tackle. And yeah, I've never been
Yeah,
a huge fan. I obviously have enough to have some of the games and played them, but it's like I don't get it. I
yeah,
really do not get the absolute adoration and like people attaching their whole identity to it like that. Like
yeah. It's been up and down for
it's
me as
wild.
well over the years, and it's just like it's like enough for just this whole like redemption arc to be so fascinating.
It's definitely interesting to observe, that's for
Yeah,
sure. And it all depends on whether or not the games ever actually be good.
and then
Because
the last one was um
yeah, people seem to like Plus
the
Shadow Generations or whatever.
yeah, it's really
People
good.
people were mixed on Sonic Frontiers, but mostly leaning positive, and
Yeah.
maybe it gets somewhere.
Was it Palette Swap? The people that spun off from Hard Drive, they got to use that meme twice. It was Sonic fans not sure what to do with positive critical reception.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let me see if I can grab trailer window. Okay, let's see if I can get the trailer window going. So I popped the trailer. There we go. Yeah, so I popped the trailer in the text chat, and I'm actually gonna play it in the corner, so you guys can take a look. I'm gonna start it so people can on the video episode can see.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot of references. There's Batman, Teenage
Oh
Mutant
my
Ninja
God.
Turtles,
The
Adventure
Bart
Time.
Kira.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been adventure.
Oh, that's
it's been
crazy.
everywhere, but
they used the
they
Ninja
all
Turtle
do
one
it in their
twice.
own way. Yeah. When even Pokemon's doing it, it's.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I love that they got the Gendy Clone Wars animated one there.
Yeah.
So good.
And of course, then you got some stills at the end where it's just like in manga or what have you. Although that like the third or fourth from the last one is from Fully Cooley, so you definitely could have gotten.
Could have got the animated one.
You definitely could.
Could have also had Jury from the Street Fighter 6 reveal. She did it there
did she
as well.
do one?
Yeah,
cool.
she absolutely did.
Amazing.
Yeah. There's been a lot. I mean, this is not all of them. That's just it's just a bunch of them. And that wasn't even a GIF. Like the GIF that I had was it was literally like more rapid fire than that. And it was 20 of them.
It's just the one, like I've seen one which is just the one slide, but it constantly changes perspective and who it is.
Sick. I would love to see
seamless.
That.
I'm like, ooh. Yeah. I remember seeing one that was just a quick of those. It's
slide. It was good. Yeah, I mean,
the one Shadow does is an all-timer for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That went longer than I thought it would, but yeah, that was a really fun movie.
Cool.
That's good.
Better than I ever would have expected it to be.
Cool.
It made me think. Got my brain going.
I was going to go see it yesterday, but me and my friends opted not to and just stayed in and played board games and watched movies at home instead. We watched Fall Guy. Fall Guy was a good movie.
Oh, yeah?
I went to see it a second time with my kid, and we saw it in what they call Screen X.
Oh no!
And man, what a weird gimmick.
Did it make you smile until you died?
I was just mostly confused. Are either of you familiar with Screen X?
No idea.
That's like the new like IMAX, right?
Sort of. It's similar. It's like they use the walls on the side as additional screen real estate.
I forget. I think I may have seen Dune 2 on one of those. Which was
That'd
good.
probably be a good one for it because big panning vistas.
Sense of scale was like off the charts on that one, which was good.
It's weird because like on the sides, the image is like lower resolution and a lower frame rate. So if you look directly at it, it's just like, what the fuck am I looking at? It's really supposed to just be for your peripheral.
Never mind. Okay, you're talking about the one where it's like on the left and the right, and it's only on like certain scenes. No, I did not see Dune on that one. I did see Shazam on that one.
Oh my god!
So when he gets into the car accident, it's like all over the. It was terrible. I would like to see a good movie on that.
Yeah, it was a little laggy at times too, so it was like it would like jitter to catch up with what was on the main screen.
Oh, that sucks.
And one of the funniest parts was there's a part in the movie where Sonic and Shadow they go super, and there's a big action sequence, and they're doing something I forget, but in the main frame, one of the hedgehogs is there, and then the other one's on the side. And I looked over, it's like the model turns into this like T-pose Fortnite thing. It's like all the detail goes away.
Oh no!
And its eyes are just, and it's just standing there. Like you're not supposed to look at it. Oh god!
Terrible, terrible. All right, well, let's talk about something that's a little better than that.
Yeah,
I pass.
Yeah. So it's been a minute, so this wasn't what I was planning on talking about, but I checked in with Lucas before, and I actually didn't beat Dragon Age the Veilguard the last time we had talked about this.
You were very close.
Yeah, you were heading towards it last time I spoke to you about it. So
yeah, so
verdict.
Yes. Let's see. Let me see. Because I know I used some of these bullet points. Did I talk about like the disparate, like the character moments and loyalty quests and stuff, and how they feel like differently weighted?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
It was like that, and then we were talking about difficulty, which was kind of most of it last time, just because of Fantasia and everything.
Oh, yeah, because of the dragon fights. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. So the like I have like a couple of bullet points that I still wanted to get to. And past me said, "Oh, I'm curious to see how only finishing loyalty missions for characters who have good synergy with me will turn out. Will I be punished for not developing Nev or Emmerich? Because as a mage, I already bring those synergies to the table." The answer is kind of like
not too much, but a little bit.
So I did develop stuff with Nev after all, because we ended up getting in a relationship together. But yeah, it is definitely like when you go in with characters that you haven't really done a lot with, it's very Mass Effect like ending mission, where it's like it's going to be tougher for them to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And
they can actually die. You can have losses in the suicide run, or
yes. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
I lost 2 characters by the end. One of them I was actually kind of surprised. Well, yeah. I mean, I was surprised, but it was like a choice thing for the character,
so skill
not
issue,
for me.
basically.
Not for me. It was for the character. Like the character, like
so it was a Morden thing.
Not really, but I can't really get into more without like spoiling it. But
Sure.
yeah, so it was interesting, and it was also cool where they don't go straight up like Final Fantasy VI, where like you split up into 2 teams, and like you control both of them, but you do split up into 2 teams, and based on who you send where, like they'll succeed or fail or whatever. And you can send like you'll get to different parts of like this branching, really long final mission where it'll be like, all right, this faction is coming to help us. They're coming in. They're going to face off against these guys. Who do we want to send from the Veilguard to help them? And it's like, all right, they're fighting these like blood mages. So we want to send somebody who's good at killing wizards. And we want to send somebody who ideally has like good rapport and synergy with the people who are fighting them. So then it's like, all right, who would be good at that? And there's like people that are good at that from a story standpoint, and there's people who are good at that from like a mechanical standpoint. And like that was kind of interesting. It did lead me towards, because like I had built up kind of my ideal 3-person squad, which was myself, and then oh my god, it's been so long since I played this game. Harding. It was me and Harding, who's like the archer. And then it is not the Kimari. The Kunari. Oh my god, what's her name? Tash?
It's him, Kimari from FF10.
Yeah.
Here to save you.
Yeah, I think it's Tash. Yeah, so me and Tash and Harding. And there was great 3-way synergy with all of us. And so I got all of us in a really good place where it was just like, all right, I do one ability, then I have them detonate it with this other one, then I have them do another one, then I detonate, and it just kind of like goes around in this round where we're just doing tons of damage. And it got to the point where I was just like blasting through people. And then I would get the bosses, and it was like, all right, the boss is hard, but like the trash was kind of hard. It got hard by the end because you're fighting like 5 ogres at the same time, which is like just ridiculous. Like, when an ogre shows up in Dragon Age Origins, it's like, this is a huge problem.
This is a big deal. Yeah.
And then by the end, and like, not to make light of it, like when you're fighting like 2 ogres, 3 ogres, whatever at the same time, like it is a big deal. Like they can just kill you because they don't do the classic, like, speaking of Star Wars, they don't do like the throne room fight scene where like one of them is just standing in the wings and waiting until it's their turn. No, they are all swinging at the same time. They are desperately trying to murder you. And if you're gonna, like, you have to be on the dodge and dash in this game to survive. And so it feels appropriately like, even though you are really powerful, like you cannot be screwing around, which I liked. I liked that. And having it so that you can create your own team and then possibly have that team get split up to have the best person handle the job, can leave you in kind of an awkward position. Thankfully, with that specific team, I was able to cover all the stuff we needed to cover without splitting it up, because that was like easily I had all the legendary armor for both of them and for myself, and so we were just like kind of kitted out, and so I was able to do that. But for the endings, I was really let down because the one thing that I really wanted to do in the end, and the choice that I wanted to make and that I've wanted to make ever since the very beginning of this game, they straight up don't let you make. Like they give you...
Is it just not an option, or you didn't get there as a result of actions? Or
I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine there being more options. I guess I could look it up. There was only really 2 options that I had in the end that I had to choose between. And they both had the same end result. It was just a different way of getting there. One of which lets you skip the final boss fight, and the other one doesn't.
Weird.
So I actually skipped the final boss fight because I didn't need to do it.
So again, a lot of Mass Effect there.
Yeah, but it didn't let me. The end result of the game and the way the universe is moving forward, I didn't want. And that definitely, coming into the ending, I was like, dang, like this is definitely going to be like on my top 10 list for this year. It's not going to be like super high, but it's my favorite Dragon Age from a gameplay standpoint, easily. Like it's not close.
Not a high bar in general, but yeah, fair.
No, yeah. But this is like a fun action game. And I felt like the story moments were largely pretty good. The character moments were cool. Like the characters were neat. I really enjoyed getting to know them. There were certainly characters that were underdeveloped. Even if you did their whole story, I've heard criticism of like abominations in the earlier Dragon Age games are like a huge deal. And then this one is just like, there's a character on your team who's an abomination, and like, it's kind of not a big deal. I really wanted them to do more with that. And they didn't.
Yeah. You compare that even to, Anders in Dragon Age 2, which, not a good game, but you can take that a lot of different ways, and it culminates in major things in the plot, and then you can react accordingly, either, disavow or I think he's cool though, and all sorts of shades in between. And that's in the bad game, so go figure.
Yeah. There's also too much talking and too much exposition in this game, particularly in the end. Like in the ending stretch. A lot of times, like, it'll be like, oh no, things are getting dark, which means they're about to finish this thing that they're doing. Or like, oh, we're with you till the end. But it's like said 3 different times before each section of the final battle. So it's just like, they cheapen.
It just becomes meaningless platitudes by the end.
Exactly. And also like the main characters, there's a thing that makes the end boss, or I guess the not end boss, but like the end boss before the end boss, invincible if they don't do something about it, and they start off to fight them before they've done anything about it. And I'm like, that's a stupid decision. And they're just like, it'll
If
get
you know
handled
about
once
it-
we're there. And it's just like,
If you know about it, deal with it. And don't
yeah.
fight
And
until then.
that was a really stupid thing. But yeah, other than that, like I think it's good. I didn't see a lot of the critiques that were going around, which are kind of unserious, but about bringing like social issues into the game or what have you. It did feel weird because those like personal character issues that people are struggling with or dealing with are like put on the same level as like my entire city has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I understand these are not equivalent though. And like, weighing both of these as like all of my people are going to be killed, and that's distracting me before we go into the main thing. And like my relationship with my mother is strained because I don't have a good grasp on who I am as a person and my gender identity. Like those are both like things to sort out, but it feels weird to have them weighed the same.
The elder gods are coming for us, and the prom is tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like that part I think is a little odd, but or like, oh hey, we're gonna stop the extinction of an entire species, like is another one that gets put on the same like level as that. Or like, oh, I'm doing the, and there's another one. It's not just like it's not just gender stuff, but like there's one where it's like, oh, my brother died doing this thing that we were doing together, so I have to finish fixing this ancient machine because that's what we were going after, and that would make me feel like maybe his sacrifice would have been for something. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with what we're doing. You can fix your 57 Chevy after we save the world. Like it doesn't. This doesn't have to happen now.
You cannot fix it if the world is destroyed. Please prioritize.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that where it's just like I don't understand. Like the classic, like, oh, I'm gonna pick some flowers while we're on the way to the final battle and stuff. Which is just I don't get that. But those are like
devalues the stakes a lot when you do that.
Yeah. And so, but what I will say on the other side of it is like I do appreciate games where they will give you a point of no return that is earlier, so that like the final like 5 hours or whatever is all we're sprinting towards the end, because then you can like get rid of all that stuff. And I have experienced a bit of that in games recently, and I appreciate that. Like
again, Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, but other than that, like it still makes some of the mid-game stuff, because there's still crazy stuff happening in the world. Then it makes it a little makes it feel a little disjointed tonally. But yeah, other than that, I would say it is definitely good. I think before the ending, I would have maybe even given this like an 8. Like I think it's legitimately very good. But now I think I would probably go with like maybe a 6 or 7. It's a real bummer what they did with one of my favorite characters.
Oh no!
I think I know what it is, and I think I know which character. So I'm with you there.
Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, it's that's like a personal thing. So you know your mileage may vary. But yeah, that's Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
All right, nice.
Right on.
Still very on the fence about if or when I'll get to it. We'll see. Just the things I've heard and the things I've seen, like generally pretty good, but there's just the complaints just really get to me.
Yeah,
like they really grind my gears in certain ways.
I will say maybe hold off until we talk about something a little bit later in the show.
Sure.
And think about that.
Sure. I'll hold off then.
Kris, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
So there's a couple things that I'll just go through real quick. Sorry about that. So, So since getting sick, a couple of weeks ago and being through all that, I kind of been in a weird funk and just like I know there's a bunch of games I need to get through and games I need to continue, and I just kind of stopped. I ended up playing a fuck ton of Morrowind again. Just I decided I'd go crazy and mod this thing to hell because it's my favorite game, and I will just do that. And I've been enjoying that and playing that, and I can talk your ear off about Morrowind anytime, any place. But I will put that aside in favor of one actual new game. Well, it's the game itself is not that new because you've spoken about the sequel already, but I finally got around to playing The Case of the Golden Idol.
Ooh.
I get the hype. It is very good.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely reviewed that for the show. What'd you think? And refresh people on what The Case of the Golden Idol is.
So it is a kind of puzzling mystery game where you're going through multiple different scenes and locations. Every time there is a murder, someone has died there. And then each scenario is different, but you generally have to go through, find all the evidence, click through all the little notes, dialogue things. There'll be certain words that are highlighted. Clicking this will add it to your collection of effectively your word wall. And then you have to then use that to piece together a bunch of puzzles that are relating to it. Like, for example, who killed who? Who are all these characters? Where were they when certain things happened? What were they doing? And just there's a bunch of things where you just got to place in all the words accordingly in order to solve them and go from there. And the puzzles are quite well designed. Like they're pretty varied in how they go about things. They're very well designed. There's lots of variety. None of them feel too completely arbitrary or things I couldn't solve with a little bit of, thought and everything. And the actual story it tells as it goes through, because again, it is kind of multi-generational, multi-year thing. It tells an interesting story as it, progresses, all surrounding this, again, golden idol, which has kind of magical powers, and then who gets it and who uses it and how do they use it and what becomes of it. And it escalates all the way to, fucking crazy fascist government at one point where I'm like, whoa, that was all right. And yeah, and then ends in a really satisfying way to see what becomes of, the characters and the family and the idol in the long run. And yeah, it ends up wrapping up pretty satisfyingly. I'm like, yeah, this is a good little solid game. Took me about 5.5 hours to beat. I think there's like a dozen or so puzzles in the main story. And then there's a few DLCs, which I haven't tackled yet. I tried the first level of the first DLC and immediately I didn't dig it as much. Like something about the
Spider of Lanka.
Yeah. That first puzzle just had a lot of stuff thrown at me, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm not sure about this. And I felt like I'd have to really muddle through it in like not the most conducive way. So it immediately kind of lost me after the momentum of the main stuff. So I might go back to it. I might just whatever. But the main Case of the Golden Idol stuff, excellent. Very good. Had a lot of fun with it. Really good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Also, the art style is hideous, and yet it works perfectly. It's wild.
It's really funny. Like it's very, very interesting.
The characters are, who the characters are. You tend to see them, recurring characters, and most of them are just like, hideous. Like well done pixel art, but just intentionally stylized in really weird ways. And it ends up working really well, but it's like, if you saw it at a glance, you'd go, ew. That's kind of really ugly. I suppose it honestly suits a lot of these characters. They are kind of ugly people and ugly souls,
which I think is great. So, I think it's very it's very fitting. It's almost like Beavis and Butthead or Ren and Stimpy, where it's just like it's almost like intentionally ugly.
Yeah, very stylized.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So okay, I'm very interested. So I have played all of because I've covered all of these to review for the show. So the Spider of Lanka, I really liked the puzzles. I liked the puzzles in that more than I liked the ones in the sequel, The Rise of the Golden Idol.
Okay.
But I thought the story in The Rise of the Golden Idol was better. And there are people who say a lot of people were saying that they like the Rise of the Golden Idol more than the case. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not on that vibe. Like, I still think the first one is my favorite. But I'd be really curious to see what you think if you end up playing more of the Spider Blanca or Rise. I'd be really curious.
I will keep you posted if I go back to them.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, I'm glad you played it. It's awesome. There's really
really good. Yeah.
There's really not anything like that I've found.
Yeah, like the closest analog you get is like Return of the Obra Dinn is the one that's constantly compared, and that's a very good game, but it is the World War thing is just an interesting approach, and I dig it.
I was gonna ask if it was like kind of like the Talos principle or something like that. I was trying to like picture the game in my head.
Not quite.
No, it's actually, hold on. I'll pull up a picture and then I can pop it through.
Yeah, I may have screenshots and such saved. Let me take a look.
I saw this game pop up everywhere for Goaty stuff, and I was like, I hadn't heard of either of these before now. How the hell?
I think I covered this on the show before you joined, Lucas.
That makes sense.
And you covered Rise of the Golden Idol not that long ago. I remember that.
Yes.
But I don't think, Lucas, you may not have been there.
Yeah, you may not have been on that episode.
I don't have any good screenshots saved to really showcase it.
Oh, okay. Here. I got some. Hold on. So there we go. I'm going to show the... Whoop. Oh.
I did take a screenshot of the ending just because the dialogue implies that the now useless idol is barely worth anything.
Yeah.
He sells off like a couple of coins. I'm like, yeah. But that was it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop an image in the text chat. So this is like a totally complete like ending one, but then
interesting.
You'll click around like you'll click around a location. Let's see, let me get you another one right here. You'll get like a bunch of scenes like this, and then you'll click through to like different rooms.
You can either go pixel hunting, or there is one which just sparkles all the relevant stuff, which is what I use because I'm not really a fan of the pixel hunt stuff.
Yeah, then you click on it, and it'll like you click on a person, and it'll like go into their pockets and show you what they've got in their pockets, and then you click on those, and it'll add those terms to like your little library.
They have a little note which mentions things like that, and then that goes into your library, and then you plug it all in.
Yeah, they have a note in their pocket that mentions somebody, so then that name gets added to your vocabulary. And then you can use that to like solve your stuff. It's really cool. It's very unique.
Looks neat.
Yeah, it's very, very good. And they're cheap too. Those games are inexpensive, very high quality, really fun. Unlike anything else that I've played. Like even Obra Dinn is like pretty different because you're wandering around like a 3D area.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. But this is totally different. But yeah, it's good. It's good. I highly recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah, and again, like I clocked 5.2 hours, and that got me through the whole thing and then the start of Spider of Noka. So it's like, yeah, this is pretty brisk, pretty light, and a generally very good time.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Lucas, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, or shall I take it with something else?
So there's a thing I kind of ran into that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
I talked. I think you were there in voice chat the other day when I was talking about this. The last game I reviewed for the year at Shack News is called Tokyo Clanpool, and it's a dungeon crawler RPG. I kind of like just tripped over it.
That doesn't sound like you at all.
No, not at all. No, completely out of character for me. I was doing this thing where it's like, okay, the year's coming to a close. I would like to do more work and make some more money. Here's the last game coming out this year. I'll play this. It looks like something I'd be into. I ended up kind of stepping into a minefield.
Oh
boy.
And to add context, there's a device that the people in our space and the games media truly love like no other. It's called the PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
In my perspective, though, that thing was cursed because I like RPGs and anime type stuff, and the level of degeneracy in that space during the PlayStation Vita was unmatched. It
Remarkable.
remains unmatched to this day.
A lot of it migrated to that console in particular, just that kind of the niche RPG kind of thing, and
It was like the
the
niche
very
RPG.
degenerate stuff that happened as a result.
The gooning on that platform was impressive.
I blame Neptunia.
Yeah, Neptunia is relevant to this story.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
Because it was crazy because like not only were a lot of these games really horny on the Vita, they also just sort of got released by normal publishers. Like nothing was like weird about them.
Yeah.
To add context, so basically a lot of games came out during this time period on the Vita that used the touchscreen.
Clanpool. Okay.
Clanpool.
Okay. Whoops.
I don't
Ignore what I said in the chat. Ignore what I said in the chat. I misheard
Okay.
him.
Yeah, a lot of games
Correction.
that were like totally
Clan with an N.
Clan.
Not Tokyo Clanpool.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Might as well be called that, but carry on.
Yeah. So a lot of games would come out for the Vita that if you look at them, they would probably fit in with like your Disgaias or whatever, right?
You have my attention?
Except
your standard N1 stuff.
This is going to backfire on you. So.
Oh, no.
A lot of these games would just have mini games in them where it was like, okay, now you have to touch the girls to get like an item or whatever. And it would like you'd use the touch screen and like you would rub all over them and it would be really like the context would often imply there is nothing consensual taking place here. And the characters would often be dubiously aged.
So like clearly the thing that you want to be playing for review on a bus commute.
Yeah.
You know.
But just every game. And like when the Vita was out, it was also like, I was also kind of like getting started in the industry and stuff. So it's like, what do you review when you're getting started? And you're the anime guy. You review the RPGs that are coming out because that's how you got codes. And again, like these were getting published by normal publishers like Axis and Xseed. Like these aren't publishers with reputations for being weirdos. So it was just like they were just putting these games out.
It's not that kind of Xseed. Like it's, you know.
Yeah. So dark times, we'll say. And this has largely gone away. And here's kind of where I plant like the plot twist here. So around the time the PS4 hit, Sony started cracking down on that kind of stuff in games and doing like censorship-y stuff. Sony previously being like kind of the land of the lawless where you could pretty much put out whatever you wanted, like the Vita.
And also having a lot of the Japanese games in general, because the Xbox sure didn't, and Nintendo's off doing their own thing.
So and Nintendo's often historically the one that's like, no, we don't want that stuff on our platform.
Yeah. Oh, how times have changed.
Yeah. So it kind of changes, and Sony starts being like, well, either we don't want this on here, or we're going to have to ask you to like take some of the stuff out. And of course, there is a section of the fandom that is like, we don't like this at all. Especially
there's another faction that's like, this is the only reason we're buying this.
Well, yeah. They're upset. They're like, Sony, how could you do this to us? This is also happening around the same time as Gamergate, or a little bit afterwards.
In the wake of that,
yeah.
So and a lot of anti-censorship movements come in, and they're like, we don't want this censorship. We want the artists to be able to put it out as they want to put it out, and it's like, okay, fine, but you're saying that as the excuse. We know why you're here.
Yeah, you're actually advocating for touching underage children.
Yeah.
Asterisk advertised not as such, but obviously that.
Actually a 900-year-old vampire, yes.
Yeah. So then like the Switch comes out and suddenly Nintendo is just like, yeah, you can just put whatever you want on here. Like
We don't
Nintendo
give a
suddenly
fuck.
is,
Take
yeah.
your shovel away.
Yeah, now the Switch is the center for degenerates.
Yeah. But at the same time, even though the Switch has the touchscreen, it's not really getting used. Like that stuff's still just kind of going away.
Yeah, and despite
Speak for yourself. I took Link's shirt on and I was rubbing all over him. I don't know what you guys are getting up to. You're wasting your time.
Well, that's what we call an extracurricular activity.
Well, it was clearly it was a side game. It was a side thing.
So fast forward to now, and I mentioned Neptunia before, or Kris did. So recently in the news has been like a couple of games in that series, and another one from like the same publisher, Idea Factory, and developer Compile Art. These people are important. They're getting blocked on the eShop, especially I think even in Japan. I'm not sure, or it's being blocked in the West. Either way, they just kind of
limited
happened out of
access.
nowhere. Yeah, and nobody's really said why. Idea Factory is just kind of like Nintendo told us that the stuff, which like some of those games are already on the Switch. They've come out on other platforms. Just Nintendo suddenly was just like, this doesn't meet our guidelines, so they're not going to publish it. Sorry.
They're not going to publish new ones, or they're going to remove all of their existing games.
As far as I can tell, they're just not publishing the next round of new ones.
Okay.
I don't think anything's been removed. And it seems like those games are still coming out on like PS4, PS5. So nothing. It's like they've already kind of like these aren't games that would have been censored otherwise. They're just getting like blocked more like to a new degree that wasn't around before. A lot of speculation has been like payment processors being kind of a unspoken part of this.
Which tends to
like
be a lot of why a lot of big, sites or whatever suddenly have to crack down on any kind of explicit anything. It's like, yeah, they get big, they get, a lot of money, and then the credit card holders are like, we're actually massive prudes, no more.
yeah,
And,
it's like
so you get your Patreon debacles and everything like that for,
Yeah.
and not safe for work artists and such, and becomes whole sagas.
Exactly. Like Patreon happened to Tumblr.
It's almost always credit cards. Yeah.
Yeah. Almost happened to OnlyFans. That was weird.
Yeah, that was very weird.
Yeah. But that seems to be hitting video games harder, maybe. It's all speculation at this point. So rewind a little bit more to this game Tokyo Clanpool. This is one of those games. I didn't realize at the time because I was just like, I'm pitching whatever I can pitch, and it's being published by a company called East Asia Soft, which I've never really interacted with their games before.
Unfamiliar with.
Yeah. But it seems like they've been kind of banging the anti-censorship drum a little bit. Like I looked up like their CEO on Twitter and stuff, and that seems to be their kind of vibe. It's like, oh, Sony's not doing it, so we're gonna do it. And to their point, Idea Factory has its own like Western branch that is self-publishing. And this is an Idea Factory game that is not being published by Idea Factory. They were just going to pass it over. It also wasn't localized on the Vita, partially because it came out in 2016 or 17 when the Vita was pretty much dead in the water anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was just like, we're just not going to bother with this game. It's not Neptunia. It's not popular. We're just not going to do it. But these guys come in and are like, we're going to do it. And so I'm looking up what this game is. I'm watching trailers on YouTube, and it just seems like a dungeon crawler with like magical girl kind of sci-fi stuff, like typical. No indication anything else is happening. Then I find people talking about it on Reddit, and that's where I learned, oh, this is one of those games that had a touchscreen minigame. And like, I can't understate how shameless and without like in like a self-aware way these mini games were, because often it was like the bare minimum gameplay justification was put in for them, and then at the same time it was like, we know that there's a chance that half or so of our audience actually wants nothing to do with this, so here's an option to skip it.
Were they like
And
mandatory before?
most of the time it was like they made you do it once,
Okay.
and the outcome was always really insignificant. So it was like, you do this first, a bonus,
Yeah, like a
of
bonus item or something,
yeah.
probably.
But the trick was like the
Usually
thing
not a
you
core
got
thing.
was what you got was usually like completely useless ultimately.
Have an
in the grand
elixir,
scheme of
join
things.
it, toss
Yeah.
it in the pile with the others.
Or in the case of this game, it's like you get a thing you can equip that gives you 2% extra to your attack or whatever. Just like completely in there for the audience that would want it in there, to have it in there, to use it as a selling point to them, but like very, very skippable. But still gonna attract the attention of
The
platform
people
holders
who are
and whatnot,
there
yeah.
for that, yeah.
Or people who, want to look at, who will see something like that and be like, "What is wrong with you people?" Um, so like it makes sense that once the Vita went away and the touchscreen thing kind of lost its luster, and these kind of games,
You'd think they'd go to phones or something, wouldn't you?
yeah, and they probably did to some extent, but it like all the censorship drama makes everything so murky, especially because like you're never gonna have a situation where someone says what is actually happening, like publicly.
They're always going to dance around the issue. It's
Yeah,
just for, journalist ethics and everything in video games, that kind of thing.
yeah, and then like the publishers aren't gonna want to say anything because they don't want to hurt their business relationships. Platform holders are just gonna be like, guidelines. We're not gonna say anything more than that. And then whatever is actually happening, like if it really is payment processors, they don't have to say shit. Nobody's gonna even think to ask them half the time. So anyway, so I'm playing this game now that I know what it is. I'm like, oh god, what kind of conversation am I going to have with my editor? Am I actually going to be able to review this? Oh god. Also, like, I thought I was done with this 10 years ago. Why am I back here again? But I finally get to the moment of truth, if you will, and like the little tutorial message pops up, and there's like end game dialogue that's kind of tongue in cheek about it, and it's like, oh boy, here we go. And then it just kind of goes bloop, and it's like, here's your item. I was like, oh, what? Okay. So I tried again and again and again. And it's just like, you click the thing and it's like, here's your item. Click the thing, here's your item. Nothing happens. Well, that's weird. Go and double check the
Censored.
tutorial. Yeah. Like, well, they certainly like acknowledge that there's a mini game here. They don't show images from it or anything. But nope. I come back later. Maybe I need to advance the story or something. Nope. Same thing. So like, well, I guess they censored it. Holy crap! The anti-censorship guys had to take their Gooner mini game out. I go and look at their website. I double check all their marketing stuff. No mention of it, being compromised, other than like another piece I forgot to mention that's relevant now is like Steam has also been refusing to publish a lot of like anime coded games like this, which is ironic because there's like actual straight up porn games on Steam, so it's very confusing. But anything that looks like a visual
I think
novel, it's
it's
like,
just I think it's just the age of characters is what it's starting to be with that.
that seems to be like the conclusion you can come to, yeah. But anyway, so like this game it's out on GOG and not Steam. There's evidence it was going to be in Steam on DB, but it's been scrubbed out. It's on Switch, and that company is publishing a special edition of it, but only for the Asian region, like Southeast Asia or whatever. And that's kind of their way around it. They're selling physicals on Play Asia.
The
They're
usual,
selling it on the eShop.
imports will go over there.
Yeah,
This
but
is how we got our Super Robot Wars back in the day. I know the
yeah,
process.
exactly. But still fully localized by this North American company. They just can't legitimately sell their game
Yep.
without getting around it. But yeah, no mention of that other than just like the obvious, like, well, it's weird that you're only selling it. But you know, So I talked to my editor about it. I'm like, oh, here's this and here's this context, and I kind of use the review as an opportunity to like talk about the history and why it's weird. And everything's good there. Then the game comes out, and if you look at the comments, boy, are the Gooners angry.
So they didn't expect it to be gone or
No,
censored.
total
They
rug pull.
did it. Okay.
Yeah. They're like, you didn't say anything. How could you do this to us? We've been betrayed
Dude,
by
it's such a shame. You know, it couldn't happen to a nicer fellows.
Yeah, it's funny. You go to the guy who runs the company on Twitter and you go in his replies and he's just doing his best to talk to people and they're just like not having it. And the way it sounds, the way he put it is like they didn't even know it was going to be an issue until like they were close to publishing and all of a sudden like the the doors started getting shut in their face without he said even in Asia they were like we don't like you got to take this out or we're not going to so yeah, it's
It's
like
crazy because there's even some stuff that like because Steam used to be like, oh, well, you can definitely go there. And then it
mhm,
was like, oh, actually Switch was letting some stuff on that Steam wasn't letting. And it's like,
yeah.
what? And now like Switch is closing their doors. So like for people,
Switch. I don't think Switch has ever like opened the door to outright like porn, but it's had stuff which masquerades as it, but then
Yeah,
doesn't.
and we're still
Like you see the shovelware everywhere in there.
yeah, and with this game, we're still in that gray territory that probably would have been on the Switch, no problem, 2 months ago. Um, and yeah, it's just weird, and like, with those other games, it's like the Neptunia games. Those games don't like they never had the touch mini games or whatever. Those games were a lot more like parody, like in nature
Yeah.
with the horny stuff. Um, so they've been getting through unscathed until now, which is really shocking. And it's weird because, like, Sony, which had been cracking down, is publishing those no problem still because, like, nothing has ostensibly changed there. It's just Nintendo's like 180ing and then going a step further now, I guess. And
No
it's
one's
wild.
communicating. It's just all the platform holders and everything are just changing their minds and cracking down
yeah.
on things. And who knows what the cause is, but it all just seems to be going up there. And then you're left with the very loud kind of Gooner crowd
Yeah.
going, "This is an outrage."
Yeah. And like, they also seem confused. And the publishers, I'm sure they're very confused because it's like, well, like, we need to put our games out. uh, yeah,
Still
it's
chasing bags, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel bad because like some of those games I actually like enjoy. Like I think the Neptunia games are fine. There's stuff that has kind of like a horror edge to it that this company puts out. There's a series called Death End Request that's got
Yeah, that leans way into the horror and the
yeah
occult
like
and shit.
yeah the writer of Corpse Party is involved with that series. Those games are really interesting. Uh, and they're kind of getting wrapped up in the mess too. Um, so it's just like, and you don't see this uh, outside of websites you probably don't want to be on anyway, like Niche Gamer or whatever, where they're like straight up gamer gators over there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just that is the alt-right pipeline, unfortunately.
yeah, so it's just like nobody really knows what's going on, and it keeps like changing. It's really weird. And it seems to even be impacting the people who you like are kind of or had positioned themselves to be like, you know, the ones fighting the whole thing. Even they're just like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Sorry. Uh,
At the end of the day, they're still just trying to make their money. They're not there for any, particular noble, air quotes, cause, or,
yeah.
putting up a good fight. It's like, they'll masquerade as it, but at the end of the day, bag chasing like the rest.
Yeah. I mean, they still had to pay the money to like get it localized and all that stuff. So I'm sure like you're doing that. And then all of a sudden it's like, here's a giant roadblock that will completely fuck you if you don't deal with it. And it's like, well, now what do we do? Uh, Yeah, I don't really have like is this good or bad kind of thing. Like, obviously,
You are simply reporting the news that this has
Yeah.
happened, and this is the minefield you stepped into.
yeah, exactly.
Reporting the nudes.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy out there. Being like around and in some cases a fan of these like kind of niche RPGs that don't have not anywhere near the AAA. A lot of them have like one or two interesting things about them, regardless of their other problems or whatever. Um, it's always been kind of like, yeah, these are weird games, and people are going to look at them funny for various reasons, so on and so forth. But it's really interesting to see how the there is an audience for those games, and it's not all degenerates and gooners and gamer gators. Like there are people who are just like anime, and they want to play the anime games and the RPGs.
And quite often, these RPGs do have at least, as you say, they have an interesting gimmick or an idea or quirk, and there's a whole bunch of them. And again, like you look at pretty much the entire lineup of everything Nipponichi has put out, that's usually falls under that umbrella. It's like these aren't the best games usually, maybe double A quality at best, not huge budget, but there might be an idea or a concept or a setting or such which is like could be fleshed out a bit more, could be better, but it's interesting and it's probably someone's idea of a good time,
Yeah, and just
regardless
like
of any Guna content.
yeah, and it's just like there's this like whole like I don't know battleground situation happening in this space. That's like, man, being in a niche like that, you just can't catch a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the last thing of 2024 that I ran into in video games.
Cool.
It sure was a thing. The game
Well,
itself
what-
is like a total 6, 7 out of 10, like old Vita game that I think it even bombed in Japan. Like nobody gave a shit about it.
DungeonRPG.exe basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah. All right. Shall I bring it home, or is there anything else that we need to cover?
I'm out.
I mean, that's fine by me, so go for it.
All right. So then I will say, I talked many months ago about playing a little game from Atlas called Metaphor ReFantazio, but I
Won a
stopped.
few
Speaking of-
awards, I hear.
Speaking of gooning,
Speaking of gooning, wait, people are gooning over Metaphor?
yeah,
they're-
everybody in the fucking industry is glazing that game.
Oh, the game itself. Okay. I was like, who is there that people are like super into? I thought this was like a Karlach
Hey, man,
Shadowheart situation.
Hey man, those ears on Heisenberg though. Ooh.
Hulkenberg.
These are impressive
Hulkenberg. Why did I
ears.
say Heisenberg? Fuck.
I don't know.
Resident Evil on
She
my
is
mind.
the
Carry
one who
on, yeah.
knocks. So,
That's the one.
You know what
Yeah.
you were talking about.
but yeah.
Hulkenberg.
So
Shows how long it's been since I've picked that game up. I really need to get back to it.
I mean, to be fair, like it took me a while to get her name down anyway. So yeah, you're definitely in good
Those
company. there,
ears.
but
You see those ears, you can't read.
I can't. No,
You're just like, wow.
It's a defense mechanism. It's like an evolutionary defense mechanism where they're confusing to the brain.
Oh my god, you could ground beef on that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I have some shocking news to tell you. So the last time that I talked about on this show, I had done only the first dungeon. And I
was a little ahead of you, I think.
You were a little ahead of me. I forget even how far I was, like somewhere between like 5 hours and like 10, maybe. I don't know.
I think that's where I'm at. Like I saw democracy come down from the sky, Majora's Mask style.
Yes. Yes.
I don't remember what
yes.
happened after that.
Yeah. So after I finished Dragon Age,
Fuck, that's good.
After I finished Dragon Age, I was like, all right, Game of the Year's coming up. I'm gonna get back to like the big stuff. And so I was thinking about, man, I can't believe that I never finished the Elden Ring DLC. Cause I got to a point where like I screwed something up. Like where you're riding around, there's a part in the Elden Ring DLC where if you're riding around, it'll say like, oh, this seal broke. And like you're just like out in the middle of a field somewhere and it's like this seal breaks and whatever. And I looked it up and it's like, oh, that means like something is cut off, like that I can't get to. And because this was on my 100% playthrough that I was doing on the main game, I was like, fuck.
Oh no.
I was really angry because I was like, I didn't know, but I also don't want to spoil myself. And that just kind of took all the wind out of my sails for Shadow of the Erdtree. And so I actually haven't been back. I've beaten like 4 or 5 bosses in that, but I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to try Metaphor. So I fired it back up. I kept playing. And I am now 20 days from the end of the game.
Holy shit.
I am at almost 90 hours.
Wow.
So
I keep seeing your name pop up. It's like playing Metaphor.
Yes.
The last few
Yes.
days while I'm doing other stuff, I'm like,
yes.
aha, I see.
Yes. So I will say, I mean, I believe I talked about this on the show where I was just like, I like it. I don't know that it has totally grabbed me, but I like what it's doing. And then I think even after I played, did I start Metaphor before Persona 3 Reload? I feel like I must have.
I don't know.
Hold on. When did Metaphor come out? When did P3R come out? Because I played P3R when it came out.
Yeah, because P3R came out beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Metaphor was August, September, sometime like that.
Yeah, it was late summer.
Oh, February 2nd.
Yeah, no.
Huh.
Persona 3 was out there for a while, but I don't think
Wait. When did episode Aegis?
That's it, yeah.
When did episode Aegis come out? Because that's when I played through the whole thing.
That might have been closer, much closer.
Episode Aegis. Release date. September 10th. Okay. Metaphor release date. October 11th. Okay. So
More recent than I thought. Okay.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what I was doing. But anyways, yeah, so I came back to it and man, it really grabbed me. And it has been everything I have been doing. Like I've literally
What was the point where it really grabbed you? I'm curious. Like what was it about it that finally made you just hooks in?
Well, so the reason why I initially stopped, it's actually kind of similar to the reason I stopped playing Elden Ring, is that so I got to after you beat the first dungeon, it opens up and you have control over what you do. And I had heard some people say that this is not like Persona. It is not like you absolutely have to optimize everything you are doing to like max out all your contacts and stuff, because you have like extra time left over at the end of the game to get to everything. And that has all, and so I was kind of like freezing because I was like, I don't want to miss anything. Is there anything that I need to prioritize doing? Because you have all of your like royal virtues, which are kind of like your stats in the Persona games. You have all of your
social stats and
social links and stuff in this game, like you do in the previous one. And if you're trying to like 100% the game, which I typically do or get close to doing in these sorts of games because I tend to like them. I tend to, enjoy the moment to moment in these games. And so because I didn't want to miss anything, I was trying to decide how I was going to go about it because I didn't want to spoil myself, but I also didn't want to like miss anything. And so it kind of took me like playing through a couple of days and being like, I'm going to go here and talk to this person. I'm going to go here and do this thing. I'm going to read this book, these sorts of things. And once I kind of got into the rhythm of what that was like, that's when I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to worry about this anymore. I'm just going to do it. There's always seems to be something for me to do. No matter what I'm doing, there's like something that I can go and mess around with. It wasn't it kind of like just became a cycle that was kind of self-reinforcing. And so it really was like right after that point when I came back to it, that I got it. And now I will say I have 20 days left. I've maxed out all my stats. I have maxed out every social link. I've done like, I think I've done like almost every single quest in the game. There's like a like 3-part like ultra quest that I actually attempted. This is the first time that I've actually had this happen, where I attempted something and then got to the end and was like, oh, I actually like straight up can't beat this. And this game is hard when you're playing it on normal difficulty. Like, so these bosses are hard. Like, you will have to play them multiple times. But after a while, I was kind of like, all right, I get it. And I kicked it down to easy to like grind and stuff like that. But even on easy, like I got to one of these like final 3 like challenge things in the game. And it just like, I got a couple of turns in and then the boss is like, okay, your entire team is charmed. And they're fighting each other. And now on the next move, after your entire team is charmed, I'm going to do a 9,999 damage hit to your entire party and kill you all. And I was like, shit.
Fun.
So I
Good
need
old S&T bosses.
Yeah. I need a way to like I need to get repel fire on my party or I'm just going to die. So like it started getting to the point where it's like, okay, I have to have like specific things.
Got to optimize your accessories and builds and everything.
Yeah. And so now like I have like, I think I have like 2 quests that I can do left. And so I'm going to do those. I might search around and see like where I can find some gear. I recently like found some in a dungeon where I've got, and this is the thing that I think is really cool. There are certain types of equipment that you can, and I'll get into this more in a little bit, but just for this specific example, there's like some legendary boots that you can get that will reflect like ice, right? You take them to the church or whatever, and you can
and you get them blessed.
And you can purify them, and then it'll be like, all right, now you can pay 50 reeve, and it'll change them from repelling ice to repelling electricity. And then you can do another one, and then it'll be like it'll go to fire. So it's like you can like switch. Like there's certain things where there's a merchant class where you can like throw money at enemies to deal like almighty damage. And so there's an abacus, which is the weapon that you use as the merchant. And there's one that makes your money abilities cheaper to do. And then you can purify it and switch it to a version of that weapon that makes your abilities more expensive, but they do more damage.
That does more. Cool.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then you can switch it back and it's super cheap to like switch back and forth between them. You just have to go to a church.
Literally pay to win.
Yeah. But so now that I'm like in the final stretch, I know almost all of the big twists. There's still like 2 or 3 things that I don't know, but I know most of the things. And I'm excited to see like what happens in the ending. But my takeaway now is this is Atlas's Elden Ring.
Oh shit.
Where this is Elden Ring. Everybody knows I'm a huge FromSoft fan. Elden Ring is basically a greatest hits album of FromSoft things.
Yep.
What that means with Elden Ring is that there's a big spectacle boss that's a giant dragon and it moves around and it's super fun. There's a boss where you're fighting somebody in the sky and you use like a special weapon. It has like a lot of the like big tentpole boss fights from the past, and it also has a bunch of the weapons from the games in the past. But it doesn't play really any different from those games other than the fact that it is open world. But the story is also more involved and more on the forefront. So it really just kind of combines a lot of things that they've been doing well takes out a lot of the stuff that wasn't working and a lot of the problems and pain points that people had with previous games, and just has all of the best stuff at the forefront. Metaphor, I feel the same way about, although it's more so with this. So Metaphor does more innovation instead of just like iteration or taking the good stuff that worked from previous games. Because like the combat in this game is not Persona. Like
no, it's SMT, or much closer.
Yeah. So and I haven't played the SMT game, so like you guys would be able to speak to that more. But like you've got the pips if you hit like
it's straight up the press turn system, which has
Okay.
been the staple since like even before SMT3, but SMT3 was like the major like introduction of it, I suppose.
Okay.
And then they've just been tweaking and refining it a few times, and 5 has, that again, and 5 is probably the most refined version of it. But yeah, they even experimented, like even side games like Digital Devil Saga had similar stuff, which is why I have jokingly referred to Metaphor as Digital Devil Saga 3, aka Persona 6, aka all that. So.
Yeah. It is very, in fact, like Riley was coming up and watching me play the game, and she was like, oh, is that Makoto? And I'm like, it's not, but he looks
in my game
lot...
it is. I named him that.
Oh, you did? Okay. I was like, he looks a lot like him. He looks a lot like him. Which is funny because she like walked up to me and straight, like, I'm glad nobody else was around, because she like something that she said was a spoiler for Persona 3. And I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, that's fun. But yeah, so I'm playing through it. It adds a lot more. I like the characters. I like the way it does things. I really like the way that they have streamlined the whole process. There, you don't have to get to level 10 with people. You get to level 8, which feels much more natural. It feels like it isn't really stretched out. It's weird.
And there's none where you like hang out with them and it's like, this is just filler to get points towards the next scene. It's like, if they're available, it's a scene.
Yeah, it's a scene. And sometimes it'll be a fight, and sometimes it'll prompt a quest that you can go do, and stuff like that. And they're all good. And it is definitely like the sphere grid thing where it's like everybody starts off with their own archetype. And the interesting thing that I didn't anticipate was that they would, because I was kind of like, all right, this character starts and they're a knight and they're built to kind of like taunt and kind of just be a tank and soak up hits and then not take a whole lot of damage and stuff. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to lean this character in that way. And then I'm gonna maybe it was Hulkenberg. Like she starts as that, and then I was like, all right. So after you're done getting the knight done, I'm gonna take you over to like be a cleric or a medic or a healer or whatever. I forget what it's called, and like get you some healing spells so you can like be basically a paladin, like just tank, taunt, and then keep everybody healed up and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of had my own ideas of like what I was gonna do with these different characters, and my main character is a mage because I always do that in every game. If there's a wizard, I'm always a wizard. So I like every time I leveled up, I was like max points in magic. Like I want to hit crazy hard. So I was like, which sucks because and word of warning to anybody who wants to get into this game, mage is like the death arcana in Persona 3. You can't advance it whenever you want. It advances at very specific story things. So that actually means you can't get
or the fool or whatever.
The final 2 mage branch classes until like basically the end of the game, which sucks.
It's tied to Gallica, yeah.
Yeah, it's tied to Gallica. And so she only levels up with you after like every major thing that happens in the story.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because it's like
that and the Seeker are kind of limited.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, although I did the last like 4 Seeker things like in one thing. I had one thing that I was hung up on for a while, and then once I did it, it was like, oh, I did all the rest of them. It was just this one that I hadn't leveled up quite enough yet. But
yeah, because you can knock out a few of them depending on how creative you are with your builds in order to meet Moore's requests. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think the music is great. I think the art is great. It runs beautifully on the Steam Deck. I love the story. I was expecting it to be more trite and very surface level and basic. It has a lot of commentary on political things, on racial things, on social things. A lot of the games, particularly, I mean, it was more so recently, where it was like going from Persona 3 to 4 to 5. Like, it seemed like the Persona games had just kept having like their teeth removed, where it was just like, well, we don't really have.
They were never
bite in what we're
quite. They
saying.
never wanted to rock the boat too much.
Yeah. And this feels like one where they're like, all right, we're gonna say some things in this game. And
yeah, racism is front and center from the outset, in a way that is honestly kind of commendable. Like,
it is
from what I've seen.
It is the main theme of the game. Is
and
like,
you are the the least race, as it were, in the eyes of society, and so you are just shit talked and abused all game from all these people, and it's like it's just interesting to portray that, because again, me as a white guy, I don't get that kind of thing, so it's just you go, oh yeah, this is horrible. It's like, yeah, people are just like, yeah, that's my day to day. It's like, ooh, yeah, I see.
And you'll get people who are very dismissive will be like, there's like two different types of people that you'll run into. It's like, there are people who will be complaining about something and they'll be like, ugh, an Elda, get the hell out of here. Like, and then
there's that one bitch in the main street of the main city who always has something nasty to say at every point in advance, and she's got something new, which is like, you fucking Elda, you fucking dirtbag scum piece of shit.
Yeah. And then there'll be somebody like, there'll be like a Mastari or a Peripus or something like that. And they'll be like, man, it sucks out here for us. And then they'll be like, oh, but you're an Elda. Like, I guess I don't have to tell you about that. Like, you know what that's like,
solidarity, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and that happens. Like, there is underclass and like, under race solidarity in this game. It's very interesting. I like it. It doesn't overstay its welcome, which seems weird to say as somebody who's almost 90 hours into something, but like, it keeps moving at a good clip. Like, and another thing that I kind of wish Will was here, but they fix the problem with like, there is no Tartarus equivalent. There is no, like, it is, a lot of the places that you're going to go are very small dungeons, but they're still cleverly designed. They've got shortcuts. You can go around and do everything and find everything, or you can just go to the end and fight the boss and then leave.
And there's usually a gimmick associated with both the monsters and the boss, which you can get information about ahead of time, so you can build your party around, which is useful, because and sometimes even like, you can pay a guy to get information in the city, but usually if you look around, there'll be a dude who is like somewhere in the dungeon who will give you a hint as well. And it's like, in case you didn't pay for that, it's like, here you go, if you go looking.
Or you can just ignore it if you
want. Or you just ignore it and try and brute force it
and figure it out on your own, which I love. I love that. And if you've done something and just figured it out on your own, and you go back to the informant and you go to buy a note, Gallica will tell you, oh, we don't need that information. So you don't have to buy that if you don't want, unless you just want to pay him for it. And then like, you can choose. But like, I like it that it's like, like you'll get to on like a Capcom like bundle or something on Steam, and it'll be like, now, be careful that what all you've bought, because this bundle has this in it, and if you already have it, it still pays for it. And I like that this was like the opposite, where it was just like, hey, like, we already did this, like, we already have this information, we don't need this. So if you're just like looking through and being like, well, I'm gonna buy everything that this guy has, like, she'll stop you. There's a lot of little things like that where it's just like, man, this is really good. It's just really good all around. So I am definitely all aboard the metaphor train. This is going to be in the upper half of my top 10 list. I don't know where I'm going to land on it. I know IGN gave it Game of the Year. and a lot of other
It did
people.
really well at the Game Awards as well. Like, it
Yeah.
didn't get Astro got the top spot, but it got like it swept pretty much every category it was in otherwise. So
Yeah, and I definitely understand why. Like if people, it's funny like how this and Elden Ring have kind of like obviated a lot of stuff, you know, where like we all have limited time, and so if people were like, hey, I've never played a Persona game, or you know, I've never played a Souls game, like what should I play? I'll be like, play Metaphor and play Elden Ring and you're good. Like you don't need to play any of these other ones. And it's cool to have like the definitive thing. Like it's been happening, you know, a little bit more lately where it's just like, dang, like these developers are just coming out and being like, we understand the assignment. We have learned lessons. You know, you'll have other
we are
studios where it's
improving
just
strictly.
like,
Yeah.
where it's just like, man, we kind of keep making the same mistakes over and over again, talking about Ubisoft games. But then there's other studios where it's like, no, we've been paying attention, like, and now here's the final exam. Like this is what we've created, and so
we are iterating on our style to the utmost.
yeah, and it is not very often that people will use the word masterpiece literally, because a masterpiece has a like artistic definition, which is like, this is the definitive piece of art from this artist. This is like this is like the ultimate thing where they achieved like the apex of their career.
Yeah.
So like, you know, Da Vinci's would be like the Mona Lisa or something. That would be his masterpiece, like the piece of work that they are best known for. And I have to say, I think that this is very clearly it for this team.
Interesting.
It's very, very interesting. I was not expecting that, going back into it, but it's like there have been like stretches of this game where I was like very stressed because of what was happening. And that doesn't really happen to me in games, but I was just like, I was so like tense and like anxious because I was like, we're going to get caught. Like this is, you know, and it's great. It's great. It's great. I can't wait to beat it. I was hoping to beat it before this episode, but I'll definitely have beaten it by the next show. And then I'll be on to, I don't know what else I'm going to play after that, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I don't know that I said that's all I wanted to say after I said a ton of stuff.
Well, I was probably going to try to jump back in, but then review games happened already, like way faster than I expected. I'm curious, you didn't really mention the what do they call their job system? Archetypes?
Archetypes, yeah.
You didn't really mention that much. And that was one of the things I think that contributed to me kind of bouncing off of it early on.
Okay.
It felt, and this is very early, and it's been a while now, so my memory's fuzzy.
Okay.
But it felt kind of restricted for what I personally want out of a job system kind of thing.
Yes.
So I'm curious what the bigger picture on that ends up looking like.
I mean, how much information do you want?
I don't know. I think I was just thinking out loud.
Okay. So yes,
yeah.
you're right on. It is more limited. There is not a ton that you get to do with each individual class, but they're balanced. So just to give a quick kind of like overview, it's very similar to the Final Fantasy Tactics job system, where let's say you start as a squire, you get your squire up to level 10, that unlocks the knight. You get your knight up to level 10, and with the squire at level 10 and the knight at level 10, that unlocks like the samurai or something. And you can equip those job sets, and then you can take abilities or job things that you've learned, and you can use those while you're using the other jobs. So there's something very similar here where every time there will be 4 different breakpoints in your social links where you will get a new ability slot for a job type. So like, for example, the main character starts as the Seeker. So when you complete different jobs for Moore, the guy in the academia, it'll be like, okay, you have unlocked a new slot for the Seeker archetype. So for all of the jobs that are part of the Seeker archetype class, you'll get like a new slot. And in that slot, you can spend your Magla, which is like your kind of ability currency, to permanently unlock an ability from a job that you have used. So like when you first start as like a mage, you'll have the fire ability. So if you've only just unlocked the mage class, you can switch back to Seeker and be like, all right, I can pay 500 Magla and unlock the fire spell. And now I can put that fire spell on any class where I have like a passive or like an extra slot unlocked. And the most you can get is 4. So whatever you have.
And that includes active abilities, passives, anything that those classes get. But it is relatively limited at any given time. It's mostly the classes with a bit of flavor, usually so you can hit extra weaknesses or double down on your strength.
Yeah. But as I was telling Chris before we started the show, you start and you only have like 2 or 3 people in your party. The maximum party
size...
Where
I'm at, I have 4, so...
Yeah, the maximum party size at one time is 4, but you get more people in your like group, and you can switch out, and all it costs is like one of your little action turns. So ultimately, you will have like everything you can want. And between those and those passive slots, like you can build very focused characters that do like a lot of good stuff. So like, you know, what I was talking about with Hulkenberg, now she is just like a crazy tank. So I have her in the final, they call them elite archetypes, which is like the ultimate version of it that you get when you get like, I think it's near the end of their near the end of their
like rank 7 or something.
Social link. It's like, 6 or 7, something like that. And so, so I have her there, and she's got a lot of like defensive abilities. And then I also am just like, all right, I'm taking all these cleric abilities and I'm putting those in there. So she's got something that can heal the whole party, something that can remove status ailments, and something that can resurrect. And then I have one passive that I got, I think, from like the dancer class or something that like gives you a little bit of MP back every turn. And so she's just like set. But you can like equip all of the, like those passives stay equipped on the archetypes that you slot them on. So like if you have like a monk or whatever, and he's got like a bunch of like archery stuff as well, like, and you switch over to paladin, when you switch back, he's still got all that stuff. And you can just
you set up builds for that class for whatever you swap.
For every archetype that they have unlocked. And because you can hot swap between the different characters in your party, it becomes very easy to be like, okay, I need healing. I'm switching out one of my DPS characters for the healer. I'm going to heal them up, and then I'm going to switch them out for my thief. I'm going to steal from the boss. I'm going to switch them out for this. So like you get to do, it becomes more dynamic, but it starts a little slow. And particularly because that scales with your like social links. Like you need to be getting your social links up with the characters whose archetypes you're using to see the benefits. Cause like, you know, they'll be like, oh, I get like Maria's social link up, but I'm not really using the medic or whatever. So like, I'm not going to see that.
Yeah.
But I do that anyway, cause she gives you more XP. So
yes. Yeah. She's great. So there's a couple of them. There's like 3 of them that I'm like, get these maxed early because there's one social link that when you max it, they'll just send you tons of cash randomly. And there's another one where they just send you like items randomly. And I'm like, damn, if you max this out like really early, you could be rich by the end of the game.
But doing so usually means you have to focus because you hit breakpoints where it's like you need your stat at this point to continue. And
Yeah.
so, much like the Personas, so I've hit that with a couple of them. It's like, yep, cool, time to grind out a couple of stats or focus on others for a bit. And yeah.
Yeah. In fact,
So-
I don't think you can max out all of your social links without having maxed stats.
Probably not.
Not like
I'm
combat
sure there's
stats, but like your like courage, wisdom, like those sorts of things.
The
Because
social
like,
stats, yeah.
Yeah, the social stats, because there are a bunch
Kingly
of them where it's like
virtues.
you need 4 or you need 5 to do this. And there's some other things that are like blocked by like major story stuff. So there's some that I only maxed out like very recently, but you still have plenty of time to do that. But yeah, even still, I think it's really good. I think the stories that they tell are good. Some of them are like kind of hard to watch. So it's good. I like it a lot. I'll have a lot more to say.
Good stuff.
After
I'll get to it back at some point. Like I had no reason to stop. I just kind of lost momentum and then put it aside for a bit.
Yeah.
It's been great the whole time I played, so
it is
I'll get back
crazy
to
to
it at
think
some
that
point.
I beat Persona 3 R and Episode Igus and Metaphor this year. Like I played literally 3 long Atlas RPGs.
In terms of game releases this year, the RPGs definitely won out. There were so many constantly throughout the year.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
All kinds of different ones too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of quality of life stuff. I could wax philosophical about that, but I'll wait until I've beaten it. So, shall we get out of here?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to wrap.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for episode 334 of The Platformers. If you like the show, leave us a review or tell somebody about it. We love talking to you all, so come join us. I'm on Blue Sky and backlogged at Brian Barnett, Brian Barnett, and I'm on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at Ribnax, Ribnax. We stream episodes live on Twitch, and I store the VODs on YouTube. And if you want to see what I'm doing, I guess I've got some more Indiana Jones stuff coming up on Kotaku, and then like it's gonna be the new year, and so then I'm gonna have a bunch of other stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, I'll be hit me up on social media if you want to play Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond, the Maximilian Dude mod, or Marvel Rivals, because I'm having a lot of fun with those. Or Street Fighter.
I also like Marvel Rivals.
Chris, where can everybody find you?
Yo, I am Kris Cornelisse. You can find me on most things across the internet as Delfeir, Delfeir. My website is versusthebacklog.com. That's vsthebacklog.com. That's one word. Still nothing new there for a while. I've got that deadlock thing lined up at some point. I just need to... anytime I go to do something with that, they change things. It's like, I'm just going to post it anyway. So anyway, I got something new coming up in the new year that I should hopefully should be fun. But other than that, stay tuned and I'll be around here. You can usually find me here. How about you, Lucas?
Hey, you can find me on Blue Sky at Hokuto Lucas. Most of my writings on Shack News. Do a little bit on Kotaku. Haven't in a while, but I have something cooking for that now, I think. Haven't been active for about almost 2 weeks, I guess. But I will certainly be active as soon as the lights are back on over there. Got 2 reviews cooking to go right away. In the meantime, the 2 things I talked about have articles to go with them on Shack News. That is pretty much it for now, unless I'm forgetting something, which is just as likely.
Nice. Well, from everybody here at the Platformers, we hope you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there. Because until next time, we are out.
May the force be with you.